Welcome to Lead the Pack. And I just want you first to just raise your hand if this is your very first Scentsy event. Oh my gosh. Well, I just want to tell you that I am so proud of you for being here and showing up for your business, because that's what we do. And I just hope that you take so much from everything that you hear and learn and see today. And I know it's hard to come to things like this if you're an introvert like me, so I want you to know that I'm proud of you, and this is a really big step in the right direction. Okay, so I am Chastity Robinson. I am a Superstar Director, and I joined in July of 2015 on the $49 join kit with less than $75 in my bank account. I didn't even know if my card was gonna go through or not. And honestly, I joined because I saw my amazing sponsor, Chloe Cox over there, living her best life in Las Vegas, and they just announced a free trip to Disney World, and I was like, yeah, it's time. So I didn't even tell her, I just joined, and here I am. So just to tell you a little bit about myself, like I said, I joined in July of 2015, and I promoted to director 1 year later in 2016. I promoted to Star Director in August of 2017. And last year, when I presented at World Tour, I claimed that I was going to promote to Superstar Director last year, and I did. And I promoted to SSD in June of this year. So, one thing that I'm really gonna stress to you guys today is please claim it. Whatever goal that is that you wanna meet, claim it, say it out loud, and go for it, guys. So, I have earned every incentive since I joined, and I've earned top 100 to Africa, Marco Island, top 50 to Canada, and I most recently earned top 150 in this past incentive. So I just want you guys to know that I am no one special. Thank you. I am literally probably the most awkward person you will ever meet. If you try to come hug me or shake my hand, I don't really know what to do, so I do this weird awkward dance, and my friends make fun of me. But that's just who I am as a person. So just know that I'm no one special, and you can do this too. All right, so to get started with Lead the Pack, what I really want you guys to know is if you have team members, you need to figure out how to make them want to stay. Because most of us join Scentsy for the most part because we really love the products. Or you've seen someone that you know really change their life or whatever. You decide to come around most of the time because you just love the products. And one thing that Scentsy has always preached about was our culture. And I don't know about you guys, but if you've ever been with another direct sales or anything like that, we're different. And we can stand on that and we can say that, and I don't ever have to feel like it's a mean girl competition. And that's one thing that we really, really try to stress. I mean, you guys saw our fans this morning. You can totally sit with us. That's what we want, and we want all of it. We want everybody to feel that way. So when it comes to being a leader, there's a lot of different things that go into it, but for the most part, everybody wants to feel like they belong to something, whether it's Scentsy, whether it's in your family, or whatever. People want to belong, but nobody wants to belong somewhere that's negative, right? Because if somebody's negative, it literally drains you. You're gonna pick up on those habits. And one thing that Chloe has always taught me, and I've heard forever and ever, is you become like the 5 people that you spend the most time with. So ask yourself as a leader, as a person, if those 5 people are bringing you up or bringing you down. And it doesn't matter whether they're family, whether they're your friend, whatever. If they're not elevating your life, you need to ask yourself, what are they even doing for me? And I know that's a hard thing to deal with, and I mean, it's not something that's fun, but if you want to elevate your life and elevate your business, you need to ask yourself who you're surrounding yourself with. So leadership is influence. That's really all that it comes down to, is influencing them. And a great leader is somebody that knows the way, shows the way, and goes the way. You're leading from the front, meaning You can't ask somebody to go and do something you can't go ask somebody on your team to go and do something that you're not willing to do yourself. So if you're standing up there and you're like, well, you need to go sell 2,000 PRV and you're sitting at $50, I mean, you need to get your life together. And you have no reason or ability to tell somebody to do something that you're not willing to do. If you're asking your team to go live on Facebook and share your story or share their story or why they joined and you haven't done it, bye. Why are they going to do that? You're not gonna be able to lead somebody with authenticity, which is one of Scentsi's core values, if you're just standing up there telling somebody to do something that you're not willing to do yourself. Just like talking up here, I don't wanna do that. But if any of my team members came to me and said, well, what should I do? I can now say, you need to do it. You need to do it and not back down. So just like I made a point a second ago to talk about our core values, they always go back to their core values when they're making decisions. Our 3 core values with simplicity, authenticity, and generosity. So I want you to ask yourself, are you living out those 3 values in your life? How are you being simple in your business? How are you being simple? Do your team members want your job? Or do they see you going around doing 8,000 things, running around like a squirrel, not having any idea what's going on, and they're not gonna want your job? Nobody wants somebody's job who always seems frazzled and always says, oh, I'm too busy, and they're complaining or whatever. And I'm gonna tell you right now that Scentsy gives you everything that you need to be successful. You do not have to go out there and recreate the wheel. You do not have to go out there and do all the crazy things that other people may do. And if that brings them joy, then so be it. But if it doesn't bring you joy, stop doing it. Go back to being a Scentsy basic. And one of my directors is in here right now, and she has been so good about reminding our team, like, stop worrying about all of the extra things that you see people do on your team pages or wherever. They're all great ideas. But if you can't get your life together enough to sell your 2,000 PRV or whatever, stop doing everything else. And don't worry about what everybody else is doing and do something simple. The next thing I want you to ask yourself is, how are you being authentic? Are you watching me or Chloe or your sponsor or your superstar director or whoever and trying to be like them? Because if you are, people that are watching you know that. They know whether you're being authentic to you. They know whether or not you would actually talk that way. If you post a script on your team page to send out for recruiting conversations, if it doesn't sound like you, I can promise you your people know that. So you need to ask yourself if you're being true to you, because you don't need to be anybody but you. Because eventually you'll get tired of doing that, and you've really just got to find your own way. You don't need to be anybody else but you. So be authentic to you and what that looks like. And how are you being generous? I mean in Scentsy, I mean in life, I mean all around. How are you being generous? And I don't just mean giving things away like monetarily wise. Are you sharing on your team page? Are you being generous to your customers and taking care of them? Or are you just me? Because that's gonna come back to you. And that's one thing that Scentsy has always, Heidi and Orville always talk about, giving back and to give more than you take. And that's something that they have always stood by. And if you know me, you know that anything I make, I'm gonna share with you. If you message me and ask me for something that you see me post, I'm gonna share it with you, because teamwork makes the dream work. And you're only as good as your weakest link, and what good would it be if I'm just doing all the things but I'm not sharing? Because as a leader and in this business, you can't get to the top on your own. Like, you just can't. And that's not what it's about anyway. But just ask yourself if you're being generous. So one of the key things that Scentsy wanted us to talk about is how, like, why people stay in Scentsy, and like, what is it that we do that's different. So give me a shout out if you're a part of Anchored Scents. Okay, so number one, I mean, we roll deep and we're ride or die for each other, because that's just our culture and that's what we do. And when I talk about culture, I just mean, like, what do we value? What do we believe? What do we say we do? What do we say that we don't do? And within our group, we share. We go to events. We support each other. We celebrate each other. We do all of those things. And that's not something that happens on accident. That's something that you have to be intentional about. And you will hear me talk about that all the time. If you're not being intentional with your culture, you have no way of controlling whether your team page or your group or whoever is a positive place to be. And you have control over that. And you create what type of environment you want your people to be around. So speaking on that, I know that can get very misconstrued as a leader. But setting clear expectations as a leader as to what we will do and what we don't do, that's up to you. You can't let your team decide that. You need to decide, this is what we're gonna do. If you post something negative on my team page, they already know I'm deleting it, I'm not saying a word, because that's not what we do. You can vent, go vent to your friend, but you ain't gonna do it on my team page, because that's not what we do. I mean, there's been times that I've been not happy with things that Scentsy has done, but that's not my place to go and talk about that in a negative light, because people are watching you, whether you realize it or not. Any of you guys that have posted pictures on Facebook, Instagram, whatever, you have customers watching. You have your future team members watching. And if you are causing a scene in a restaurant, you have people watching you, and you're representing our company, our values, you're representing everything. So just remember that. Something that we've really talked about is being positive. And I mean, that's just what we do. We're team positivity, team kindness. If you follow Heidi on Instagram, you'll see that she posts about kindness all the time. And that's something that has been very intentional with them. And I mean, you can see that when you meet them and when you talk to them, you know that about them. Okay, so moving on to more about a leader. This is something that I feel so strongly about. Guys, you are their leader, you are not their boss. That is a big difference. You don't own these people. Your team members need to feel comfortable around you, and they need to feel like they can come to you, but you are still not their boss. You can't wake up and work their business. You shouldn't want to wake up and work their business. But that's something that I feel like people are like, well, I'm their leader and they're not doing what I say. Well, guess what? Bye. Go work with somebody that's going to be ready for that. And when it comes to being a leader and being a mentor are two completely different things. Two completely different things. You can be a leader by scheduling team page posts. You can be a leader by being a lead consultant, but are you actually mentoring these people that you're bringing in? Because just like your customers need to know, like, and trust you before they buy from you, your team members need to know, like, and trust you. Because if they don't, they're not gonna listen to you. They're gonna go to YouTube, they're gonna go to wherever, and they're gonna go and find somebody else to be their mentor. So, and that's one thing that Scentsy's really stressed about is building a relationship. We build relationships with customers. You have to build relationships with your team members too. And I know for me, I can get really like in the mood of doing my systems and doing all the things, but then I'm not stopping to actually build a relationship with people. And I know that that's something that I have to be intentional about. So in saying all of that, when it comes to being a leader, some people, raise your hand if you've ever been frustrated because your team hasn't done what you said they were gonna do, or they haven't been working their businesses, or you're just frustrated in general. And guys, we've all been there. If you haven't been there yet, you will be. And I want you guys to know that you cannot control what other people do, but you also have to realize that the way that you're trying to lead them or the way that you are trying to teach them, it may not be their learning style. I'm a visual learner. I don't do group work. I like to be by myself. Like, I'm not like that, but there's some people who they need that connection from you. They need to see you in person. They need to do all of those things. So you've got to understand who your team members are and really try to build a relationship with them that way. Statistically, 20% of your team will do 80% of the work. And that's something that I think a lot of people don't realize is they think that they sponsor 3 people and all 3 of those people are gonna be their rock stars and your business is gonna take off, and then they get frustrated and they quit. Or they stop sponsoring because the 3 people they sponsored aren't being successful. Well, guys, like, once again, you can't control them. I sponsored 9 people in May with the $15 join kit, and 6 of them sold 0 and are now gone. I can't control that. I trained them, I sent them all the resources, but you can't make somebody go out and do the work. So when it comes to all of that, like, you have to worry about what is in your circle of control and what is not. And that's something Chloe had to have like a heart-to-heart, Chastity, get your life together conversation with me this week about you need to worry about what is in your circle of control and what is not. You are doing the things that you need to do. You know you're doing the things that you need to do, so we've got to just go find new people or whatever. So, okay, so when it comes to getting to know your people, there's a lot of different things that we have done, and one of the new things and what that looks like is a system. I know if you've heard me talk on YouTube, you've heard Chloe and Justin, systems need to be put in place from day one. And we've talked about systems for PRV, we've talked about systems for sponsoring, we've talked about systems for training your team members. And I got so caught up in training leaders that I was really missing the mark on getting to know all of my people. And that's something that I knew I needed to be more intentional about. So I created a frontline form that I now send to all of the people that I personally sponsor or anybody that rolls up to me. And those forms tell me things about them, like how many kids do they have? Do they have kids? Do they play sports? Like, what do they have going on? How do you like to learn? Was a big one, because I don't talk on the phone. If you call me, I'm gonna watch my phone ring unless we have a coaching call scheduled, because I'm just not gonna do it. But some people really like to talk on the phone, and that may be how I have to train one of my brand new people when they first join. So asking them how they like to learn. I mean, and I'm a teacher, so I feel like I should have thought of that a long time ago, but it just kind of like hit me, like not everybody's gonna learn the same way, and so I needed a system. So at least if I know something about them and they're telling me, I need you to meet with me one-on-one, at least I know that, and you can know what's going on in their life, because that does make a big difference. But when I say that, I also want you to think about being simple and being duplicatable, because I'm not sending that to every single person in my downline, and I'm not doing that because you need to be able to do for one that you can do for 5,000. And you need to ask yourself right now, as a leader, what you're doing for your team, are you gonna be able to do when you have a group of 5,000? And if the answer is no, stop doing it. If you are buying all the testers for an incentive for your team, how are you gonna be able to do that and be fair when there's 500 people on your team? And that's one thing that Chloe has always really stressed to me, like, you need to treat it the same way whether you have 1 or you have 500, because if you wanna grow a big business, that's the reality that you're facing. And you don't want your team to feel like, oh, I've gotta go buy all these things. No, you don't have to go buy all these things. Scentsy incentivizes us enough. Scentsy's an amazing company, and we have lots of things to be thankful for. So, okay, anyway. So leading is done in a larger group. So when I said that leading versus mentoring is different, you can do a leadership chat, a leadership call, and do all of those things, but mentoring is one-on-one. And I'm gonna say this, if you are not coaching your people, you need to stop sponsoring. And I know that's awful, but if you are not willing to put in the work to train your people to do what you need to do, then you need to let somebody else that will. Find somebody else that will. And if your upline is not coaching you and mentoring you, then you need to find another mentor. Find somebody that is going to dig deep into you. If you can't find anybody personally, go watch my YouTube channel. Go watch OG Boss Babes. Don't make an excuse that you don't have a sponsor that does anything for you, because we're #no excuses around here. And we're not gonna listen to that kind of thing, because plenty of us, I'm sure there's other of you guys in this room that have sponsors that have done nothing for you. And that doesn't feel good. That doesn't have anything to do with your value. You're still valuable, but you can't use that as an excuse. So, establishing your team culture, just make sure that you are celebrating big and small wins. If you're a leader right now and you haven't been recognizing your team members on your team pages, you need to get it together and start doing it now. It is not your director's job to recognize your people.
Preach.
Just saying. And I know that that's like, well, blah, blah, blah. If you want to be a director, act like a director today. I don't care if you're a certified consultant, if you're a lead consultant, if you joined yesterday. If you want to be a director, act like a director and get it together. It's not your director's job to shout your people out for shooting star or sensational start or having 500 PRV by the 4th of the month. That is your job as a leader. And if you're not doing that now, your people aren't going to trust you by the time you do hit director, because they're not going to see that you've been doing that. They're going to wait on your director to do it. It's not your director's job. Something else that you can do, and this is something that I have really been trying lately, is empowering others to take the leadership role before you're ready. Guys, you're never going to be ready. I'm not ready right now, but I mean, I've still got to wake up and do the things. You're never going to be ready. And if you are looking at leaders and looking at other people and you're like, that could never be me, well, I guess it couldn't be you, because you have that mindset. I'm no different than anybody else. I'm a 4th grade teacher. I have no skills when it comes to sales or any of those kinds of things. I've learned. And one thing that I can say that is 100% the reason why I found success is because I've listened to everything that my sponsor told me to do, and I did it. And I didn't make excuses. I put my head down, I got to work, and I did everything that she did. And if you see somebody that's being successful, put your head down, get to work, do the things that they're doing. Now, if they're doing something crazy, then, I mean, no. But if you're not sponsoring, but you're telling your team to sponsor, that's a problem, guys. You have to be sponsoring. So, what I want you to do is I want you to think about some of the things that you could be different on as a leader. Something that is challenging to you or something that you haven't done before. And I want you to really be vulnerable. Like, have you been being the best leader that you could be? Have you been just posting on your team page, or have you not been recognizing your people? Like, what is it that you can do to be different? I want you to just take out your workbook and I want you to write down something that you are going to do to be different in leadership. Something that you are going to do to be different in leadership. Okay? And while you're thinking about that, I want you to also know that leadership is not about you. And if you are in Cincy and you're saying that you're a leader and you want to promote to the next rank and you're doing it for you, you're doing it for the wrong reasons. Because leadership is about helping others achieve their goals. And your team is gonna know if you're worried about them putting in an order on the last day of the month because you want to hit your numbers and promote, or whether or not they actually want you, or whether or not you actually want them to achieve their goals. They are going to know if you're only reaching out to them on the last day of the month for a reason. If you haven't touched base with any of your team, I mean, that's what they're going to know. And another thing I want to stress really, really quickly is about teaching your team to do the same. So if you've found something that works for you, you need to teach your team to do the same, but you also need to realize that you have to focus on your front line and teach your team to focus on their front line. And I think that's one thing that we've seen a lot of, at least in our group here lately, is that a lot of people are leaders, but they're sitting back and letting their directors do all the work, or letting their directors do all of the recognition, or whatever, and you can't do that. and be an effective leader. So hopefully you've had a chance to write down what it is that you want to do different in your leadership and within your business. And I also wanted to let you guys know that I have all of the systems that I use for my personal business on my YouTube channel as well as in my Google Drive. And if you're on the Raleigh World Tour page after presentations today, I will put a link on there so that you can see all of the different things that I do for my business, because if you don't have a system for your personal business, sponsoring, and training, we got to do better. We got to get that part together. So anyway, I hope you have written that down. And what I want you guys to think about is, after hearing all of the information that you're going to hear from me, the information that you've heard earlier, I want you to know that, like, with all the love in my heart, if you came here and you sit here all day on Saturday and you take in all the training and you write down all the notes, but you go home and you do nothing, you have completely wasted your Saturday. And I don't want that from any of you. But I also know that sometimes when you leave events like this, you want to go home and you want to do all the things. And you have all the things that you want to start to do, but then you get overwhelmed and you just do nothing because you don't know where to start. So what I want to encourage you to do is just start something. If you don't have your personal business together, don't you worry about anything that's being said right now. You need to get your personal business together. What's today? If you don't have your 500 in, I don't really know what to say right now. And I'm not saying, and I don't say that to be ugly, but if you're a leader, that's an expectation that should already be met. And so if you don't know where your 500 PRV is coming from every single month, then you need to be focused on finding your 500, building your customer base, etc. So just remember that you need to be doing all of the things that matter. Don't worry about the things that do not matter, okay? And referencing back to the CLIMB acronym, I want you to think of, what are you going to go home and challenge yourself to do? Write it down. What are you going to go home and challenge yourself to actually do with any of the information that you hear today? Challenge yourself, because nothing grows from comfort zones. And if you're not challenging yourself, you're never going to change. I want you to write down, I will learn how to blank. What do you want to learn how to do from today? Do you want to learn how to do Google Drive so that you can do the forms? What is it that you want to learn? And guys, anything that you want to learn, literally, you can Google it. Or you can type it into YouTube, or you can type it into the workstation. Anything that you want to learn about, you can. But if you're not going to put the effort out there to learn, I will influence by. How are you going to influence someone? I will influence by. That can be your team, that can be your customers. And when I say leading from the front, does your team see you posting on social media? Does your team see you talking about the joint opportunity? Does your team see you consistently working your business and not just posting about Scentsy once a month? You are an influencer if you are a leader. And like I said, last year when I presented here at World Tour as a STAR director, I announced and claimed what I was going to achieve. I want you to write that down, number one, and then I want you to text it to your sponsor. So I will promote to SSD, or I will whatever, make it specific. And I do want you to text it to your team, to your sponsor, because somebody needs to hold you accountable. If you can't text it to your sponsor, text it to your director. But if you're not announcing things and you're not claiming them and you're not putting them out there into existence, I don't believe that they're necessarily always going to come true. But if you put it out there and you're going to put your head down and get to work, you can reach your dreams. Make it big, make it scary, and you can go out and achieve all the things. All right? Thank y'all. If you have any questions, you can absolutely come talk to me. Like I said, I'm going to post on the page all of the links for all of the things, and I just appreciate y'all.
Yeah, yeah.